At a time when so many of us feel disconnected to our environment and the natural world that surrounds us, it is crucial to take the time to explore even our own backyards. Join us as we journey with Chris, Margaret, and Caitlin through the temperate deciduous forest that can be found all throughout the eastern United States, Canada, Europe, China, and Japan. While Georgia may have some sporadic weather, temperate deciduous forests are characterized by their experience of the 4 distinct seasons that help shape the ecosystem as a whole. These regions are found within 23 to 66 degrees latitude, known as the middle latitude regions, and typically include 3 levels of plants, the first of which includes lichen, mosses, and ferns, found typically on the ground level of the forest. There are then shrubs found in the middle level, topped off with flat-leaved trees such as magnolias, birks, oaks, and maples on the top level. It's also important to note that the animals living in this biome must be able to adjust to the 4 distinct seasons. This diagram shows a basic overview of the food web of the temperate deciduous forest, including the white-tailed deer as a keystone species, and the 10% rule working its way up from 1,500 kilocalories all the way at the bottom to just 1.5 kilocalories at the top. As Margaret, Chris, and Caitlin continue their journey through the temperate deciduous forest, they begin to notice some plants that seem better suited to handle the environment than others. One example of these plants is carpet moss, or Bryophyta, a native plant to the temperate deciduous forest biome. This moss is rootless, so it can grow anywhere sustainable nutrients are provided and the climate is adequate. This allows it to grow along stream beds and the braces of trees easily within the forest. And carpet moss normally tries to live close together in large bunches, so it's easier to survive and reproduce more efficiently. Because it's a large food source for animals, however, and because they reproduce using spores instead of seeds, staying together is a great adaptation for the survival of this species and allows it to gain an edge within the competitive environment. This organism belongs to the R-selected ecological model, as they produce thousands of spores and hope that a couple will survive and take root. Margaret, Chris, and Caitlin have also noticed that magnolia trees seem to be doing very well in their environment. This is because they are evolved to encourage pollination by beetles, while also being able to avoid the damage from these pollinating beetles with their tough carpels. Magnolia usually grow on acidic soils that are rich in nutrients with enough moisture and direct sunlight to support their growth. They're often found planted by humans along parks and golf courses because of their ornamental morphology and ability to provide shade. The magnolia tree is also an R-selected species because it reproduces through many red seeds from its cones. As Margaret, Chris, and Caitlin continue exploring the forest, they come across many animals that seem right at home within their own backyard. The first of these animals that appears very commonly is the white-tailed deer, otherwise known as the Odocoelis virginianus. These deer have long legs and strong muscles that help them sprint up to 30 miles per hour and jump up to 10 feet high in one bound. This means that while predators might have to run around large obstacles such as fallen trees, these deer are able to leap over them and escape. White-tailed deer are part of the K selection species, as they only have a couple of babies and nurse them until they are grown. Another animal they can't help but noticing all over the place is the gray squirrel, or Sciurus carolinensis. It's able to survive in the temperate deciduous biome because of the cool climate and large amount of trees. Its climbing skills are shaped by its sharp claws that allow it to take shelter within the branches. The height of these trees protects the nests and families of the squirrels, while keeping them hidden and protected in the foliage. Gray squirrels are also a type K selection species, as they have few young and raise them with care until they are ready to be alone. As they begin paying closer attention, Margaret, Caitlin, and Chris notice some relationships taking place within the forest. Some good, some bad, and some in between. The first relationship they notice is between the eastern chipmunk and oak trees. The eastern chipmunk takes shelter in these oak trees, and in return, the chipmunks disperse the seeds from the trees for the tree to be able to spread and continue reproducing. This is an example of a mutualistic relationship in which both species benefit. The red squirrel and oak tree have a bit of a similar but different relationship, in which one benefits and the other is neither helped nor harmed. Red squirrels receive both shelter and food from the oak trees. However, the oak trees gain little to nothing from the presence of the red squirrels. This is an example of commensalism. A relationship in which one organism benefits from the other, and the other is harmed but not always killed, is referred to as parasitism. This can be seen in the temperate deciduous forest as a tick feeds off the nutrients of a white-tailed deer. While the tick is taking nutrients from the deer, it could pass on an infectious disease, and the deer stands in no way to gain from the tick's presence. Finally, we can see predation in the forest, as one organism eats another to obtain nutrients. This can most obviously be seen as the owls in the forest feed on rodents and other small birds. As the group begins wondering how all of these animals are able to survive with such limited resources, Caitlin remembers something she heard about on the Animal Planet called the competitive exclusion principle. This principle states that two species that compete for the same limited resource cannot coexist at constant population values, and as a result, one species that has even the slightest advantage will dominate in the long term. This can be seen in the temperate deciduous forest between the black bear and cougar competing for small fish and animals. The bear is larger, and with its perfect sense of smell and hearing, it has the obvious advantage and will beat out the cougar in the long run. The group was disappointed that they were unable to locate any of the endangered species they had researched ahead of time. Chris was looking forward to finding a red wolf, or Canis rufus, of which there are less than 150 left in the wild due to interbreeding with coyotes and human interference such as intensive predator control programs. Caitlin was disappointed that she was unable to find a red-crowned crane, or Grus japonensis, a 5-foot-tall bird with an 8-foot wingspan that's been pressured by agricultural expansion and deforestation that have removed a great deal of the marshes and forests that they call their primary habitat. Margaret, of course, was disappointed that even though she was in Georgia, she was unable to find a giant panda, or Ailuropoda melanolusa, an endangered species with less than about 2,000 living in the wild due to habitat destruction and food shortages such as a loss of bamboo, which is their primary food source. The group also begins noticing a couple things within the biome that don't seem very natural. The first of which is the Asian carp, a fish species brought into the biome in the 1970s for the purpose of aquaculture. Once introduced, these fish entered the waterways through flooding in the 1970s and began outcompeting largemouth bass and other fish species that are native to this environment. Thus, they hurt the economy and the natural balance of the ecosystem. A plant that they have noticed that appears out of place is garlic mustard, or Alliaria petiolata. This plant was introduced from Europe in the 1800s, but its release of allelopathic chemicals inhibits seed germination of other species and crowds them out of the habitat. Just as any other biome, the temperate deciduous forest is shaped by its abiotic factors, the first of which is the sun. Not much sun is able to penetrate through the high tree line because of the broad-leaved trees that are found in the temperate deciduous forest. So, many underbrush plants don't need the same amount of sunlight that they would in other environments. Another abiotic factor with a large effect is the elevation. Especially here in the Americas, the Appalachian Mountains are very rocky with unpredictable landscape, and plants must be able to adapt to the high elevation and different nutrient levels that accompany it. Finally, the minerals found in this biome are a very important factor in the growth of different organisms. From the sedimentary rock to mica, this has a large effect on what plants are able to grow and what nutrients are available. Like I said at the beginning of the video, the temperate deciduous forest biome is a lot closer than it might seem, even in our own backyards. However, this proximity to humans comes with its own issues, one of which is coal mining. Coal mining is very common within temperate deciduous forests. However, it can cause fires such as the Carbondale mine fire, and really overall hurts the environment and adds to the pollution within our forests. This coal mining was discovered in Virginia in the 1740s in this particular form, but it's really time to find alternative forms of energy or a different sector of the economy to rely on so we can preserve our forests as is. Another huge problem facing our temperate deciduous forest is deforestation. As the name suggests, deforestation refers to the stripping down of the trees and natural landscape to provide for other developmental purposes. To kind of combat this issue, we can focus on building upwards on areas already more sparse and taking advantage of the land we currently have without having to cut down habitats and natural forests to do so. While the temperate deciduous forest biome is obviously rich in culture and biodiversity, its value to the government and economy is based largely on its coal mining potential. This coal mining is a positive feedback loop as it brings in a large portion of revenue and is unlikely to disappear from the region as more must be removed to keep up these profits. Temperate deciduous forests also bring tourism as natural parks in certain areas.